Have you ever experienced déjà vu so precise, it felt like a memory from a life you never lived? Noticed impossible synchronicities lining up with surgical timing, or sensed reality glitching for a brief second as time seemed to stretch, fold, or skip? If you've experienced that, you're not crazy. You're not broken. You're perceiving something most people are trained to ignore. If you've ever paused afterward and wondered whether you were losing your grip on reality, you weren't. You were brushing against it. And if those moments left you feeling strangely alone, like no one around you could understand what just happened, that isolation isn't social. It's perceptual. You feel alone because you're operating at a different frequency. That difference isn't poetic language or spiritual metaphor. It has a name inside science, even if it's rarely spoken publicly: quantum consciousness. There's a pattern here most people never connect. When real déjà vu happens, not the vague, forgettable kind, but the kind with emotional weight, when numbers repeat with intention, when cause and effect feel misaligned, the default explanation is dismissal, memory error, pattern-seeking brain, stress, fatigue. But those explanations collapse when the experiences persist, intensify, and synchronize with changes in perception, emotion, and awareness. That's the moment the subconscious mind begins detecting a hidden reality beneath the surface narrative of everyday life. This matters far more than you've been told. Quantum mechanics predicts reality with unmatched precision, yet it refuses to explain what reality actually is. That contradiction isn't philosophical, it's mathematical. Nobel Prize-level physicists have openly admitted the equations work flawlessly while meaning remains unresolved. In 1935, a paper challenged the completeness of quantum theory. In 1982, experiments confirmed entanglement beyond classical limits. In the 1990s, observer-based interpretations resurfaced quietly. One proposal was reportedly rejected 14 times by peer review for the same reason: too metaphysical. That isn't rumor, it's a pattern. If you're here right now, you've probably felt the pressure of that gap. The sense that the world you're shown isn't the world you're actually in. That sensation is often the first sign of spiritual awakening, grounded not in belief, but in observation. The observer effect doesn't claim your thoughts magically create reality. It says observation is inseparable from outcome. The implication is uncomfortable. Reality may not be fully formed without participation. That participation carries a measurable signature vibration and frequency deeply misunderstood, but real. This is why you feel out of sync with people who seem perfectly comfortable with surface explanations. It's not arrogance. It's not alienation. It's resonance. When awareness shifts, internal frequency shifts with it, and the quantum field responds differently. That response can appear as synchronicities that feel personal, time distortions that feel intimate, or a quiet certainty that something fundamental is unfolding just beyond language. Reality creation stops feeling abstract and starts feeling uncomfortably close. Science doesn't deny this. It postpones it. The most disruptive ideas don't get debated. They get delayed, not because they're wrong, but because they rearrange the rules. When consciousness enters the equation, boundaries blur between mind and matter, cause and effect, who you think you are, and what you're participating in. If this resonates, it's because this wasn't made for everyone. It's for those who notice the seams, the ones who sense that reality isn't a finished object, but a process still unfolding. Stay with me. This isn't for everyone, and that's exactly why it matters. What comes next connects your experiences to experiments, dates, and discoveries most people never hear about. And once you see how the pieces fit, something inside you won't stay the same. And when scientists tried to explain why, something unexpected appeared. On June 18, 1978, physicist John Archibald Wheeler presented the delayed choice version of the double-slit experiment. Single photons were fired toward the slits, and the decision to observe their path was made only after the photon had already passed through. Classical physics predicted the outcome was fixed. The data contradicted that assumption. The photon behaved as if the future active observation influenced its past behavior. Wheeler concluded that no phenomenon is a real phenomenon until it is observed. This wasn't interpretation. It was measurement. and it forced physics to confront a disturbing implication. Perception participates directly in reality creation. This is where your experiences stop being coincidences. When synchronicities cluster with impossible timing, when déjà vu carries emotional certainty instead of confusion, when moments feel selected rather than random, it mirrors the same breakdown of linear causality. Your subconscious mind does not process reality the way matter does. It responds to frequency, vibration, and informational energy moving through the quantum field. During spiritual awakening, awareness expands faster than identity can stabilize, and the hidden reality begins leaking into perception. You feel unsettled because reality is no longer passive. In 1935, Albert Einstein, Boris Podolsky, and Nathan Rosen argued that quantum mechanics was incomplete. In 1982, Alan Aspect proved entanglement was real. Distance collapsed. Separation dissolved. If space does not limit connection, what does that imply about parallel outcomes existing simultaneously? About sensing events before they happen? Quantum consciousness suggests awareness is not produced by the brain, but tuned through it, like a receiver adjusting bandwidth. Consciousness expansion feels destabilizing because it exposes how conditional perception truly is. Nobel Prize winner Eugene Wigner admitted that consciousness cannot be removed from quantum theory, but they don't teach this in school because it destabilizes control. If you've experienced moments like this, describe one in detail below. This isn't engagement, it's recognition, and this is where everything changes. We'll come back to it. What most people never realize is that the observer effect didn't stop at particle. On April 21, 1997, physicist Anton Zeilinger led an entanglement experiment in Vienna that separated paired photons by hundreds of meters. The result was undeniable. When one photon was observed, the other responded instantly, with no signal and no time delay. Years later, in 2022, Zeilinger received the Nobel Prize for proving entanglement is not theoretical, but real. What shook physics wasn't speed, it was meaning. If information ignores distance, then space is not fundamental. The quantum field doesn't sit inside reality. Reality emerges from it. This is where your experiences start making sense. When synchronicities arrive exactly as your inner state shifts, when déjà vu feels emotionally precise, when choices feel like forks between parallel outcomes, it reflects the same principle. Your subconscious mind is not bound to linear time. It reads frequency, vibration, and informational energy first. During spiritual awakening, perception widens and the hidden reality presses closer. You feel unsettled not because something is wrong, but because awareness is no longer passive. Entanglement already proved separation is an illusion. The observer effect proved neutrality is an illusion. Together they imply reality creation is participatory. Possibilities coexist until perception selects one. That's why time feels unstable, why memories surface before events, why consciousness expansion feels disorienting and isolating. You're not alone because you're mistaken. You feel alone because you're operating at a different frequency than consensus reality. Nobel Prize winner Max Planck stated plainly that consciousness is fundamental, but they don't teach this in school because it collapses predictability and control. If you've experienced moments like this, describe one in detail below. Not short answers. Details? This isn't engagement. It's recognition. And this is where it gets stranger. Awareness. And this leads to the real flaw, not in quantum mechanics, but in how we understand ourselves. On May 9, 2007, physicist Dean Radin published results from a series of double-slit experiments conducted at the Institute of Noetic Sciences. The setup was standard. The variable was not human attention. When participants focused their awareness toward the apparatus, the interference pattern shifted measurably. No physical interaction, no classical signal, just perception. The data showed statistically significant deviations from baseline, suggesting consciousness directly influenced quantum outcomes. Mainstream physics dismissed the implication, but the measurements held. Observation was not passive. It altered the system. This is why your experiences feel disruptive. When synchronicities emerge during emotional intensity, when déjà vu arrives with certainty instead of confusion, when life feels like it branches after key decisions, you're sensing the same instability. Your subconscious mind engages the quantum field through frequency and energy before conscious reasoning forms a story. During spiritual awakening, perception expands and the hidden reality becomes harder to ignore. Reality stops feeling fixed because it isn't. It's responsive. This explains why many researchers step away quietly. When quantum consciousness is acknowledged, entanglement dissolves separation. The observer effect dissolves neutrality, and reality creation becomes participatory. That realization destabilizes identity. It makes time unreliable, choice consequential, and awareness heavy. Consciousness expansion often feels isolating because consensus reality cannot follow immediately. You're not disconnected. You're tuned differently. Nobel Prize winner Werner Heisenberg admitted that what we observe is not nature itself, but nature exposed to our method of questioning. They don't teach this in school because a society that understands this cannot be controlled the same way. If you felt moments like this, describe one in detail below. This isn't engagement, it's recognition. And this is where everything changes. Quantum mechanics doesn't fail to explain reality. We fail when we assume reality exists without consciousness. Everything you've encountered here, every experiment, every contradiction, every uneasy implication was not placed in front of you to impress or confuse you. It was meant to orient you, to remind you that quantum consciousness is not a belief system, but a living process unfolding through awareness itself. The quantum field does not respond to hope or intention alone. It responds to participation, and participation begins with perception. You can feel that shift right now, not in your thoughts, but in your body. The slight tightening in your chest, the sense that something familiar has quietly rearranged itself. That isn't anxiety. That is recognition arriving before language. What you're feeling is not a flaw. The strangeness is the signal. When awareness expands, internal frequency changes, and with it, your vibration no longer aligns with the surface version of the world. Conversations feel thinner. Time feels uneven. Intuition feels louder. Your subconscious mind is recalibrating to a wider bandwidth of information. During spiritual awakening, perception widens faster than identity can adapt, and the hidden reality begins pressing closer. You are not losing stability. You are outgrowing a narrower frame that once felt permanent. Here is the implication most people resist. If consciousness collapses possibilities, then time, death, and separation cannot mean what we were taught. If the observer effect is fundamental, then endings are not absolute, distance is not final, and reality creation is not symbolic. It becomes responsibility. This is why this knowledge has always been delayed, softened, or framed as abstraction. Systems built on predictability cannot survive widespread awakening. Minds that remember their role cannot be directed the same way. You did not arrive here by accident. Alignment is not coincidence. Your perception brought you to this exact moment because you were ready to see what cannot be unseen. You are not alone in this. Thousands are waking simultaneously, sensing the same fractures in reality's surface. This space exists as a convergence point where resonant awareness finds itself reflected. Feel that in your body now. The heartbeat is faster because something has shifted permanently. You cannot unsee this. To anchor it, write one declaration in the comments as an act of conscious collapse. I am the observer. Consciousness creates. Or, I see beyond the veil. This is not engagement. It is activation, a signal that strengthens the shared field and draws resonant minds together. What happens next depends on the choice you make in the next few seconds. Your awareness is already responding. The rest is decision. Something changed in you while you were watching this, and it doesn't return to what it was before. The way you're perceiving this moment right now is already different. That's the mark of consciousness expansion beginning to integrate. It isn't dramatic. It's quiet, irreversible, and unmistakable. You can feel it in your body more than your thoughts, because awareness always shifts before language catches up. Now anchor it. In the comments, write one clear declaration. I am the observer. Consciousness creates. Or, I see beyond the veil. This isn't a comment for engagement. A public declaration is a quantum act. It collapses intention, strengthens the shared quantum field of this space, and attracts other minds resonating at the same frequency. That's how awakened awareness recognizes itself during spiritual awakening. If this resonated, signal it with a light not for ego, but as a marker for the algorithm to surface this work to others who are searching for the same hidden reality. This isn't about popularity. It's about expanding access to knowledge that's been delayed, diluted, or ignored. Subscribe only if you're ready. This channel isn't for everyone. It's a space for those operating at a different frequency, where each video reveals deeper layers of quantum consciousness with precision and responsibility. The next chapter goes further than most people expect. Parallel worlds are real. Here's why. What happens now depends on your choice in the next few seconds. Reality responds. You decide what to ask.